trailers do matter.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the Ghostbusters.
Get out of my friend, Ghost!
What an awful trailer.
Yeah, I mean, so we watched that YouTube series, Every Frame of Painting, and you shared with me a blog that kind of broke down the UK trailer versus the US trailer,
yes.
And showed how, like, where to cut, what the frame, like they cropped a frame at one point, the images you're actually showing the audience, like it all matters in terms of, he made some very subtle points about why the comedy in the trailer didn't work.
I've never seen a bad trailer spark so much politics and outrage and real-world consequences for people fighting and arguing. Well, over what, in my opinion, was just a bad trailer.
Yeah. You guys think it's a pretty... I haven't seen it, Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan, but I think I was just fatigued, all the controversy, but you said it wasn't a bad movie.
And you didn't miss much. In my opinion, it was fine. It was a fun watch. There were some good performances.
We laughed.
Yeah.
I'd rather there not be another Ghostbusters movie because it wasn't great, but it was not as bad as the trailer.
Yeah.
And the trailer made it look horrible.
It's a modern comedy. That's all it really is, with some extra effects that modern comedies don't get. And
if you like the actresses, you'll probably like the movie.
I mean, Leslie Jones, her performance in the actual movie is really way better than the trailer.
It's more nuanced. It's
because in the trailer she looks like a cartoon, or she sounds like a cartoon.
And so I remember people when I heard early on, they were like, Leslie Jones is better than she is in the trailer. I'm like, how? Is that scene that I saw in the trailer with the "Get out of my friend, Ghost"?
Get out of my friend, Ghost!
Is that in the movie? If it is, you're done.
Yeah.
But somehow, I mean, context matters. Movies are interesting in that way.
I heard she was actually one of the more relatable characters.
Yeah, no, I thought she really worked in it, and there was an interesting performance, to say the least, from what's her face from SNL there.
I actually really liked her as well. Some people really ragged on her.
Which one's that? The crazy one?
Yeah, the goggles.
The guns?
Yeah, she doesn't really have much of a character, but she has.
But she does funny things. She does funny things with her body. She does funny things with her voice.
A very physical performance.
It was fairly consistent. Like I have a problem with Melissa McCarthy now, where I think she mostly does in the moment whatever is going to be the funniest thing.
Which we're Gilmore Girl fans.
And so we know she can act. We know that she's good, and we know she's funny, and not just for being the fat, gross one.
Yeah, or the homely one, or like the
And they didn't do that in this movie, actually.
That's good.
She was boring. Instead, they just did nothing.
Yeah.
She's just sort of a neutral character, but. You know, I actually love Kristen Wiig. I remember the first thing, because I'm not really an SNL guy, but the first time I saw Kristen Wiig was in a very short scene in Knocked Up with Katherine Heigl.
Okay.
And she's just acting opposite Katherine Heigl, and she was just like another, like, I guess Katherine Heigl was a weather lady or something, and she was just going, she was making these very subtle digs about Katherine Heigl's weight.
About her needing to lose weight.
That was her only goal in the scene.
But she wasn't legally allowed to say she should lose weight, so she's just like, get tighter.
We don't want you to lose weight. We just want you to be healthy. Okay. You know, by eating less.
Yeah, she's like, maybe tighter. And it's just a very funny performance. And then I think Bridesmaids is pretty brilliant. Bridesmaids was written by Kristen Wiig, and she sort of teamed up with, now I can't remember the director's name. It was like, he was the big deal for a while. Like I was hearing his fucking name every day. Paul
Feig?
Paul Feig. Yeah, that must be it.
That's who directed Ghostbusters.
Yes, thank you. Well, he directed Bridesmaids.
Okay, yeah. Which is fine. So it's a fine movie.
Yeah, I actually thought it was really funny, and it made me discover Melissa McCarthy. And so when I kind of heard, like, hey, they're going to take Bridesmaids and make that Ghostbusters, I was like,
all right.
I was like, well, it's not as good as Ghostbusters 3.
I liked the female cast they told me about more than I liked the various male casts had talked about in the past. Ones that included like Seth Rogen or like
Chris Farley at one point, or all these different iterations of the male cast. And I was like, well, if you're going to truly, if you're kind of like, if the Bill Murray thing is totally done, and we're not going to do Bill Murray, we're not going to do Dan Aykroyd, and
Paul Ramis is dead.
Harold Ramis is dead. Then doing this sort of this female treatment of it, it's at least inspired to some degree. I mean, maybe it's a little cheap.
It might shake it loose a little bit, where you're not just rehashing something that you shouldn't have touched.
Are all the original, or the ones that are alive, do they all make cameos?
Yeah, all three of them.
They're terrible.
It's actually the worst part of the film.
Yep.
Really?
Bill Murray on screen is the worst part of the film.
He doesn't make one joke.
Do you think
they do away with him very quickly. Dan Aykroyd goes, I ain't afraid of no ghost.
As a cab driver.
As a cab driver. And Ernie Hudson is Leslie Jones's uncle that provides her with the hearse.
So, do you think they regret not doing a soft reboot?
Sony doesn't have a lot of properties at this point in terms of big IP to do big
They had a
tentpoles.
terrible year.
And if that's all we're doing now, if all we're doing is going back to the well, you got to go back to the only thing in the well.
They were looking through their catalog and they go, why aren't we making more money with Ghostbusters? Ghostbusters is a huge cultural thing. And they really didn't want to involve Ivan Reitman. We know all this from the Sony hacks. Ivan Reitman, the original director of Ghostbusters, they didn't want him involved. They thought he was an old fogey. And they wanted to make it fresh. You can see the emails that go back and forth between Amy Pascal, the then head of Sony development, and Paul Feig about like they're gonna make alien ghosts and they're gonna do all this crap. And she can't spell to save her life.
But they
it's all
originally
caps.
wanted something different. They originally wanted not going back to the well. They wanted a unique, individual, original, like female superhero film, right?
Right. They were developing. At the time, Paul Feig was already developing an all-female superhero movie called Glass Ceiling.
So they kind of retrofitted Ghostbusters to do this Paul Feig vision.
That makes
And they said, why don't we do this instead? Because we need to make some money off of Ghostbusters already. We got to sell some Twinkies. And
Gotta sell some Ecto Cooler.
and so for something that was brewed in a cauldron that cynically, to have sparked this kind of gender debate. I'm like, we need to talk about something that matters, because believe me, they did not. This is not Sony launching a. This is not them.
This is not a feminist movement. This is a cash grab.
This is a cash grab, guys, and. I think after the big backlash on YouTube and how hated the trailer was, I think Sony wanted to launch an experiment, which is can you market a film off of accusing people of being bigots?
And the answer is no, because
Can you make them spend their money to prove they're not?
I mean, ultimately,
sexist?
if we're going to be totally objective in how things all shook out, you had people wanting it to be a horrible movie or a great movie, and it wasn't either.
And then you alienate the people who love the original Ghostbusters by basically calling them sexist.
People who didn't come out to protest this film, but again, really, it wasn't a bad movie. They might have enjoyed it.
They might have enjoyed it if you just stood out of this sexist debate.
One of the big internet stories during it was James Rolfe, who we're all fans of. He's the angry video game nerd. He just made a quick little video talking about, you know what, I don't really want to see a remake of Ghostbusters. It's one of my favorite movies in the world. He didn't even mention the gender issue, except for in relation to its title. Yeah. He was like, they shouldn't call it Ghostbusters. Otherwise, people will all call it the female Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
But otherwise, this was not about gender.
It sounded like he was just basing it on the trailer. It doesn't look... A trailer should want to entice you. He saw the trailer, and that doesn't look like something
he said, it's going to be a remake, I don't want to do it. He got roasted as a sexist, right? Even by like Patton Oswalt for some reason, because his wife worked on the movie or something. James Rolfe did the smartest thing that no one else in the world was willing to do. He didn't make a peep. He never, to this day, he has not acknowledged any of that firestorm.
I respect that so much.
You know what that's called? Don't feed the trolls.
Like in the biggest,
Don't feed the trolls.
in the grandest way. He never made a peep, and that's what Sony should have done.
Yeah,
they should have been like, no, we have a good movie.
And they should have kept advertising it. They should have put out another trailer, tried to make it look better.
Knock their socks off.
I mean, they probably
make it look better.
They probably couldn't have prevented the Huffington Post from being like,
oh no, you can't prevent the Huffington Post from anything.
Giant fat male babies not interested in movie
wearing
because
cargo
dumb.
shorts.
Can I make a recommendation? If there's a headline and it's got an opinion pretty clearly in the headline, it's not news.
Yeah.
Don't read it.
If it's on the Huffington Post, it's not news.
Yeah, pretty much. So they tried. Sony went ahead and tried to fan that fire and see what all the fuss is about, see what all the controversy is about. And the movie, I think, ended up making something like.
I think it could have done a lot better. I think it hurt way more than it ever could.
I think what hurt it a lot is also it doesn't have a good global reach, and so China didn't want to show it, and
because the paranormal
stuff,
which was always going to be a problem,
is iffy.
The budget wasn't cheap. I mean, it's a $150 million movie.
So it's like if you can't have a global movie and you have that high budget, you're going to be losing some money. Yeah,
217.8.
217.8. Those are pretty good returns. They probably.
It didn't flop as bad as anybody wanted it to, and it didn't do as well as I wanted.
But they didn't launch a cinematic universe the way they intended to. And that right there might be one of the. Would you, if you were the head of a studio, I don't care, female, male, whatever, Would you budget 150 mil for a Ghostbusters remake?
No.
To me, that's too. Like Ghostbusters is about people in janitor.
Janitor costumes.
Yeah.
Going around.
Running around Boston pretending to be New York.
Is shooting green screen ghosts.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Ghostbusters aren't really action heroes. They just go like this.
Yeah.
And even this movie had to kind of come up with creative ways of making this more interesting, which is probably one of the filmmaking challenges of the movie.
Well, I mean, if you think about the original Ghostbusters and how much they're actually busting ghosts in that movie.
That climax.
It's guys being funny.
It's guys being funny. It's the characters. There's like 10 minutes of Ghostbusters.
It's Bill Murray hating his friends and ragging on them the whole
We've been
time.
rewatching it, like the same scenes over and over again, and we're just like, Bill Murray never takes the movie or the situation or the character seriously
whole
for a second.
life.
That's like sounds like his film career.
The Marshmallow Man is destroying the city, and he goes, "Well, we just get this guy laid. There won't be any trouble. He's a sailor." And you're like,
they're
why
about-
are you joking?
They're about to go through with a plan that's going to wipe out all of existence. And he's like, I love this plan. I'm happy to be a part
He's
of
being
it.
sarcastic, and it makes it wonderful. And Rick Moranis is so funny. And I mean, as much as we enjoyed it, and by the way, we saw it at Cinema Salem in Salem, Massachusetts. Oh. So we saw it in the ghostiest area of the country. But it's been 2 months since we saw it, and like, it didn't age well in my brain.
No.
Much like, I mean, did Knocked Up, for instance, age well in your brain? I mean, these are movies where people just kind of quip at each other.
I walked away from it enjoying the good parts, and I'm remembering the bad parts more as time goes on.
So it didn't do what it needed to do, which is reintroduce Ghostbusters to the world. Yeah. Instead, it made Ghostbusters a bad word, and that sucks.
Yeah, it does suck because, like I said, Ghostbusters was a huge part of my childhood. I dressed as a Ghostbusters 3 years in a row for Halloween when I was younger, and so it's like it does suck. It sucks that maybe Ghostbusters needs to go back to Marvel.
if you wanted to squeeze some gold out of Ghostbusters, which might not be a good idea at all.
I don't think so.
But if you needed to do it, maybe do it with an animated series.
Oh yeah. Remember Ghostbusters Extreme? Ghostbusters Extreme? That was fun.
People like it.
I liked it. I mean, at the time.
I never saw it.
Didn't age well.
I saw the real Ghostbusters, which
I had the real Ghostbusters toys. Does that count?
Oh, yeah, we all did. My God, those are in the backyards of so many.
So Netflix, Ghostbusters TV series, do it.
The Ninja Turtles, even before these Michael Bay movies, they had a giant show on Nickelodeon that really brought them. People love they're fan favorites. You can actually bring properties back with animated series.
I think so.
So that's not a terrible way to do it. And then of course,
But don't do it the way you did it this most recent Ninja Turtles movie.
I mean, once Harold Ramis died, it's to me like the live action hope is kind of over.
I think you could do a live action television series, like a Netflix series, like an HBO series or something.
That'd be great.
That'd be great because like you can expand the arc. You can do Ghost of the Week, but you can also have the overall arc of like Azul in the background.
Or if you want to finally throw Ernie Hudson a bone, for the God's sake.
Yeah.
Ernie Hudson, who never should have been it to begin with because of the Eddie Murphy thing.
The only true believer left.
The guy who was like, anytime you're ready to Ghostbusters, I'm ready to Ghostbusters.
Doing it.
The guy who
He's on standby.
The guy who offered the animated series, like, I'll do my own voice, and they're like, nah.
Dirty.
He gets, and then when they're finally ready to make a new movie, they're like, it's gonna be all chicks, and then he's like, I wish it was me, and they're like, sexist. Ernie Hudson's just been getting crapped on for years. Make it an HBO series. Ernie Hudson reopens the Ghostbusters. It's just him. There's no Bill Murray. There's no Dan Aykroyd. Give him everything finally, and have him be like, I'm gonna go. Wouldn't that be great to watch a Winston show about him recruiting a new team?
Yeah.
I would watch that movie or show. Yeah. Anyway, there's other movies.
Get out of my